Welcome everybody to High and Low, a podcast about talking picture shows.
We do films that are corny, and some that are horny, and some that win Academy Award.
Doing all kind of movies from all kinds of genres, serving hot takes like plates of lasagna.
Before we get going, a warning to you, you might hear some talk that's a little blue.
We sometimes cuss and we sometimes curse. We like to do it off the cuff and don't rehearse.
Now, if this sounds like your kind of show,
Tune in.
Drop out,
This is High and Low.
Salutations to all the lovers out there in podcast land. This is the High and Low podcast, where we watch two films to determine which one is our ride or die and which one is a one-night stand. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Vonn.
Hey, how's it going?
And Luke.
hey,
And I'm so happy that we're gathered here today, fellas. But you know what? It don't make no difference, because I know anytime I go outside and look up at them stars, you two are going to be looking at them same stars. And no matter where we are, we're always going to be together. We don't need to even be in the High and Low podcast studio, because we got heavenly love. And only love can kill the demon. And what we have is more powerful still, because we got fate and we got love and we got destiny on our sides.
Preach.
Yeah.
are you done? Are you done?
Well, all I'm saying is I think that uniquely qualifies us to talk about a little something that the French call amour fou, une folie à deux, obsessive love, all-consuming passion, murderous desire. We're talking about criminal couples on this week's episode of the High and Low podcast, which begs the question, Vonn, Luke, have either of you ever committed a murder, done a murder with your lovers? Is that an activity? I feel like that would be a very passionate thing to do. Like, that would really bond you to a lover.
Well, we're in it together now. No, we ain't worked our way up to doing a murder yet.
Okay. Any crimes? Any petty, like, shoplifting, larceny?
I've done some vandalism
Okay. Bounce a check.
and theft.
Yeah, not as a couple. I've
Done some B&Es
lots
with a
of
couple.
petty-
Yeah.
As a couple.
Yeah.
I've done some arson. You know.
Grand Theft Auto a little bit. Just take a little joyride, but you want to drive something a little different.
Yeah, true enough.
What's the statute of limitation on B&Es in Canada? Anybody know?
Oh, 2 days. Can't be that long.
Yeah. Little innocent breaking and entering.
Oh, what are the deets? What time? What day? What was the address?
What was taken? Was it under, what's that cutoff? 5,000?
Was it under 5,000 or over 5,000?
Actually, you should
No
probably,
comment.
Yeah. If I was your lawyer, that's what I'd tell you to say. So
What would happen if we took a black light through the room there? Maybe it wasn't a withdrawal. Maybe it was a deposit.
like,
Hey!
he stole the TV and then just masturbated all over the walls after. Yeah, we're doing a criminal couple movies on the High and Low podcast today. Have you guys seen these Badlands, Terrence Malick, 1977? This was my first time seeing it.
Yeah, this is my second time. I kind of started going through Terrence Malick's stuff a little more seriously. You just started like paying more attention to him a couple years ago, so I probably saw it a couple years ago.
Oh, okay. You could see that this is like a very much the kind of prototype. I know Bonnie and Clyde came out before this. Arthur Penn, Sean Penn's brother, as we all know, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But Chris Penn's uncle, somehow,
Oddly enough.
yeah,
It's a weird.
I don't understand how genealogy works.
It's not a family tree. It's a bush.
But yeah, this is definitely it's a very influential movie in the genre. And it's fun. It's so pleasant to watch. It's just a nice chill vibe.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies. I'll just say that right off the top. And every time I watch it, I find more I like about it. It's just so eminently watchable, like so many of Malick's films are for me.
Yeah.
He just takes time to just look at everything that's going on around them instead of, not necessarily characters, just kind of filling the space with just what the world around them is doing, whether it's just some random guy picking up a coffee from a counter or a coyote running across the Badlands.
Yeah, and he's one of my guys. Like every time. It's just a breath of fresh air watching his shit for me. I absolutely fucking eat it all up.
Yeah, I can just sit down and take it in. You seen much Malick, Mitch?
He's one of the guys on the list for me because, yeah, he's very well respected and he's got all these great movies that people consider to be must-sees. That this might even be my first Malick. if I'm not mistaken.
It's a good one to start off with.
Yeah, and the fact that I've only seen this once, so I can't really say it's one of my favorite movies, but I really loved the vibe of it. Like, it was a great movie to spend some time with. And, pretty short but sweet. It's like an hour and a half long.
It's in, it's out.
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
Based on a true story.
Yeah, inspired by
a true story.
Who's that guy? Charles Starkweather and whatever the young lady's name was that he went around the country killing with.
That made it into Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, Starkweather Homicide.
Did it?
Yeah. Starkweather Homicide, Children of the Little Mad.
Oh, man.
He's really the Terrence Malick of songwriting. A poet.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive if you make the cut in the Billy Joel song. Like,
yeah, so
that's like Ted Bundy's jealous in his cell over there. He didn't make the cut.
They were a media sensation, and both these movies that we're covering today are inspired by them, and they take different approaches for sure, but it's something that nobody remembers anymore. Nobody talks about it anymore. It's just a completely forgotten bit of Americana.
Yeah. There's something about a boy and a girl hooking up and going on a killing spree and robbing places that just captivates the imagination of the viewing public, doesn't it? It just, I think maybe there's something, like a little bit of you is like, man, that could be me, just out on the open road robbing banks.
It's a cool style of escapism because it's not like you're putting yourself in the shoes of a superhero or something impossible. It's like, no, I could get somebody and like go rob a bunch of banks right now in my life. That's something that that I could do. So it's like,
it's like you need to find, that's so like a soulmate activity, like that's when you found your person who's your ride or die, like the person you can commit a murder and rob a bank with. So there's something very romantic about it, I think.
Both very romantic movies in their own strange way.
We should have done these movies on Valentine's Day in hindsight, but oh well.
So how does the movie open? We got Holly. That's Sissy Spacek in her voiceover. Now, the received wisdom about films is that voiceovers are kind of like a narrative crutch. But in Terrence Malick's movies, he uses them a lot. And he uses them differently than anybody else really does.
Yeah, they factor into all of his movies.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
It wouldn't be unusual if there's actually more dialogue and voiceover than there was actually spoken between characters.
Yeah. He writes these big scripts, and then he gets all kinds of weird footage and just crazy amounts of stuff that he films, and then edits it together in such a way that it flows kind of like a symphony or something else. His movies are structured a little differently than, say, his contemporaries like a Martin Scorsese or whatever.
Well, it really works here because Sissy Spacek is playing a 15-year-old teenage girl, and the whole thing is kind of stitched together as if it was the diary of a 15-year-old girl almost, this voiceover narration. So it really works as a framing device to kind of carry the plot along. And Scorsese's a good comparison because Scorsese is another guy who has a lot of voiceover in a lot of his movies, and it tends to work. Like a Goodfellas has voiceover, and that's one of the few movies with voiceover where I'm like, man, this movie would be lesser without the voiceover,
Scorsese's movies have a lot more snappy dialogue than a Malick movie. And like in this, most of the dialogue's pretty sparse, and everybody very short sentences, few words.
This one has some snappy dialogue, but like it's an exception in that way.
Yeah,
for his filmography.
Martin Sheen's character is a very charming guy. He's quick with the one-liners, but the movie in general has almost like a dreamy quality to it a little bit too.
Yeah,
especially as things go along and they sort of travel further into these Badlands, and just visually things start to look more alien and strange.
Yeah. So it opens. Sissy Spacek. She looks very young here. She's playing a 15-year-old named Holly. I think she was in her early 20s when she made this. But anyway, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
She's a 15-year-old.
Yeah, she's a real Lolita.
And she,
definitely a weird feeling throughout the whole movie with that, bit of information.
A little bit.
Because how old is Martin Sheen's character supposed to be?
25, I think.
25? So it is creepy.
And Sheen himself, I think, is like 30.
Okay. It's creepy, but it's also, it seems like nowadays, anytime you hear a story from the 70s or 50s, like every rock star back then was doing this kind of, it was just a little more common back then, but yeah, when you actually think about it, it's still
back,
it's That's where we're heading.
Stop making jokes like that. It really does sound bad.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah, but it's an odd spice that just kind of seasons the whole movie with this strange feeling.
Well,
even if it was acceptable then, and like
that just like was what it is.
Yeah. So you'll get these like lines of dialogue in her voiceover narration where she's like, "Kit said I was so mature for a 15-year-old, and I wasn't giggly like all them other schoolgirls." And it's just like little uncomfortable snippets of dialogue like that.
He's a groomer, but we just hadn't coined that term or
that was called courtship back then.
Yeah. And she's got her real Texas accent, Spacek, in this movie. One of the best to ever do it, Sissy Spacek. My mother died of pneumonia when I was just a kid. My father had kept their wedding cake in the freezer for 10 whole years. After the funeral, he gave it to the yard man to bury her. He tried to act cheerful, and he could never be consoled by the little stranger he found in his house. So one day he moved us from Texas to Fort Dupree, South Dakota. The opening of the movie, it's like a fucking novel. And that tone keeps up throughout the entire fucking movie.
Yeah, it establishes the whole voiceover narration. Her father is like this stern man. He's like a sign painter in town.
I love that detail about him. So he's the guy who paints the signs for your shops, for your billboards, whatever, and it's just a cool trade to do.
Yeah, it's a thing you don't really see probably as much nowadays. I feel like a lot of that stuff is just like printed or done with the machine. Like you don't get a hand-painted sign around town. You get like neon lights maybe or something. But
There's like a few things throughout the movie that I really like that are super specific, like the dictaphone, like a little shack you can go record a record of and just have a record playing. Like,
yeah,
that must have been commonplace at the time.
Yeah, I know, and it's cool to see that because we simply don't have that. So I really liked that. I don't know, it was a cool flavor to have in the movie.
Those little 70s details.
So we see this garbage truck driving down these tree-lined residential streets in South Dakota. There's Kit, Martin Sheen, coming out of the truck. He's looking at a dog on the side of the road. We're not sure if it's dead or if it's just sleeping.
Yeah, I think it's dead, but
yeah, he's like, I'll give you $1 to eat this collie. And this coworker's like, he wouldn't. He's like, it's not a collie anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's right. That one, no collie.
No,
right?
it's some good
Not
bullshit.
even close.
Shows Kit's full of shit most of the time.
Yeah.
But he's got his hair all coiffed back. He's a cool guy. You can tell
Got the
right
Canadian
away.
tuxedo.
Yeah. Super laid back.
Yeah.
I think this guy is just being wasteful, though. Why not eat it? Like, if that was like a raccoon or a possum he found on the side of the road, he'd probably have no problem putting that in a stew. But because it's a dog...
Well, we'll have to ask our Garbage Man listeners. I'm sure they wouldn't let it go to waste.
Yeah.
Is this movie true to life or not?
There is one thing that garbage man collectors do is pick things, and if there's something of value, maybe not a dead dog, but an old bike frame, something like that, they'll take those on their route.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Smelt it down.
Get its precious
You got the
ores
ore.
inside.
Garbage Man culture is just like a Mad Max movie. Melt the metal down.
So we see this like early on in the movie, how Kit's kind of obsessed with junk and other people's possessions.
He's always looking through a garbage can before he opens it up or before
Yeah.
he tosses it in.
Yeah, he's reading it. He's like, this lady's going to lose her house if she ain't careful, looking at through a lady's past due bills and stuff like that.
Any kind of ephemera he can get his hands on and attach meaning to is kind of a recurring joke or even a theme in this movie. Yeah, we see him peddling some trash. He's like, look at these boots. And it's like, I don't want your fucking boots. Get lost, kid.
Yeah, it's like, what size are they? Your size. Do you want them?
Yeah.
Perfectly good boots.
Yeah.
And then he just fucks off early. Typical slacker.
Yeah, I've done thrown enough trash today.
Yeah.
See ya. And so he leaves, then he's just walking by, and who does he spy but Sissy Spacek doing her baton routine, which she was really doing. She's tossing and spinning and twirling around.
Yeah. That's the first time we hear that Gassenhauer theme.
Oh, yeah. What is it? A glockenspiel or a xylophone?
Carl Orff.
Yeah.
Beautiful tune.
Which I always heavily associated with True Romance, directed by Tony Scott, because that theme is all throughout that movie as well. That's like kind of the main theme for the two lovebird criminal couple in that movie.
Obviously,
Like,
heavily
Direct
influenced by
homage.
this.
And he's like, thought I'd say hello to you. And I'd try anything once. And would you come walking with me? And
What for?
I guess I have some stuff to say. I'm lucky. Most people don't have anything on their minds. You kind of get the idea of like what a midwit charm that he is for like this podunk town. Like
Just charming enough to work his way through this place.
yeah,
If it was like a bit of a bigger place, I don't like his chances.
no.
I like running my mouth. Yeah, it's kind of adding up why this 25-year-old is gravitating toward a 15-year-old. And he's like, I don't I seem worldly and quite intelligent to you, 15-year-old Sissy Spacek.
Yeah.
You know you're mature for your age, right?
How do you? Good. Yeah, but as they're walking, they're getting to know each other a little bit, and Kit tells her that she's a garbage man, and then Holly's dad comes out and calls her back, and she says, I don't think I can see you. My dad wouldn't like me seeing a garbage man.
Which I always find funny. I mean, yes, garbage men are filthy, disgusting creatures. I know several of them.
But by
I mean,
coincidence,
it's a respectable job.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it's a super important job.
I mean, what else are you going to be? A day trader?
Yeah. If those guys...
Which one adds more value to society? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
yeah, and to your just everyday life.
Yeah.
I'm sure if those people were lawyers, they would still be filthy and disgusting.
Like, have you
know,
seen
that's just-
pictures of New York City when the garbage men go on strike?
And you can't pay a day trader $1 to eat a dead dog.
No.
I've tried. So the next day, Kid comes in for work, and his boss is just kind of sitting there, and he's like, heard the news, Kit? You've been fired. Been in all the headlines. And Kit just like grabs, he's like, want the keys? He tosses them into a barrel full of oil. Where they're nice and handy. There you go.
Yeah. Just a big old plop, and away they go.
And
Yeah.
if I ever have to fire somebody, that's how I'm going to do it. Just with like a nice, that's kind of a clever line. Heard the news? You're fired, pal. Why don't you
No
make
matter
like a
what the
trade?
circumstances are.
Mitch just
Scram.
wants so badly to be a petty
Yeah.
tyrant.
I always thought, like, that could be my job. Like that episode of King of the Hill where Dale Gribble just fires people. They realize he has, like, no conscience when it comes to firing people, so they give him, that's his full-time job.
He's the hatchet man.
Yeah. He earns a promotion. He's making more money. Like, I could do that.
I had to fire somebody once, and it sucked.
Oh, yeah. It would be hard if you knew them.
Yeah, I guess. Usually you should know the person you're firing, right? Or do you think it's like a court summons?
You bring them into a room. You've got plastic sheets taped all over the wall. And then you say,
Oh, no.
you're fired.
I'm about to be a made guy. Oh, no.
Yeah, he's gone. Luke's gone.
So cut to Kid at the employment office where he's offered a job working in the cattle pens and kind of thinks it over. He's like, oh, heck, as long as there's a breeze. So he goes to tell Holly. She's inside. She's busy with her Spanish homework. And he's like, well, how do you say quit my job in Spanish? And she's like, something, mi trabajo.
Cultured.
He asks if she wants to go for a ride. She's like, I guess so. Then they're just walking around town. I'm like, does he have a car? No, I guess not, because they're just walking.
Yeah, they get cars later, but I guess it's true. I assumed he had a car at first, but
I didn't pick up on that, actually. That's
No, he
hilarious.
steals cars later. Then the thing about her is she doesn't say much in the scenes.
No,
No.
yeah, her dialogue is mostly voiceover for sure.
Which is interesting. It is. She's very internal and shy, and exactly kind of what you'd expect from a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Who's out of her depth.
That really is something
entirely out of her depth.
that's interesting about this movie, because you also see her describing Kid a lot in her voiceover narration, where she's like kind of giving, and you get her perspective of, you can see what she sees in him a little bit, even when he's just being like a doofus or something on screen. Her voiceover narration will give the impression that he's doing something deeper, something interesting, and it really does add a different dynamic to this movie. You're right.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything about her interiority, nor is he really interested. Even when she starts talking to him seriously, he deflects, he changes the subject, he throws out one of his like vapid little witticisms.
Oh, he's just like, he's a sociopath.
Yeah,
Pretty
entirely.
much, yeah.
completely.
But super charming.
And meanwhile, he's working at the feedlot. We get really nice footage of him working there, and we're getting more of Holly's voiceover, and she's saying stuff like, in the stench and slime of the feedlot, he'd remember how I looked the night before. And, like she has all this stuff to say, but doesn't have the agency to say it, or even really to control her own destiny in any real way.
She's just going along, drifting along through the current. That is Kit.
Yeah, really what he likes about her is probably the fact that she's the silent type, so he can just kind of run his mouth when he's with her. But this farm that he's working on this cattle farm, and his job there seems to be they guide these cows into position, and then they clamp these gates down around the cows' necks. And then one man takes a stick and just seems to be sticking a stick down the cows' throats. Like, I have no idea what they're doing to these cows.
I think
what this
maybe they're
job
giving
is.
them medicine.
Okay, that would make sense. Like the cow, take your medicine, cow.
Good medicine.
Just,
Antibiotics.
Good medicine.
I don't know.
just a line of cows getting sticked in the throat.
I'm not a cowboy. I just play one on TV.
I'm going to go be a cowboy now.
Or at least I'd like to.
That's how he frames it to her. He's like, I'm a cowboy now.
I've seen those devices before, though, where they like have to usher the cow's head through, and then you have two men pinch the cow and hold it.
Yeah.
That's what we use.
Enough about your daily life.
Well, I thought Mitch maybe could relate because your mom has one at her house.
I'm more used to things going in the other end of the cow. People putting their arms up the cow's rectum, that kind of thing. I'm not used to people putting sticks in the cow's mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys aren't cowboys. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah. There's a brief scene of them playing cards by the river and under an old oak tree. And she's just like, it's nice here. And he just goes, yeah, the tree makes it nice. It's impossible to describe this movie. It's so full of scenes like that.
Yeah. And kind of dreamy.
And they just breathe. There's no music. The music is just the wind and the flowing water of the river. It's just very serene.
You're in
tranquil.
nature. The sun's on your face.
Yeah.
There's
And
pretty
then-
flowers.
The
We
next,
shouldn't pick them. They're too pretty.
yeah, it's just stuff like that. And then, like, the next cutaway, they're making out under the bleachers. And she's like, my stomach's growling. And he's like, oh, there's an old fudgesicle over there. You want it? Like,
Very simple dialogue.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so fucking much.
He's got an answer for everything.
It's
Kit.
funny. So their romance is kind of growing over time. Holly's has this pet catfish. And like it's like in a goldfish bowl. And this
That was
big, ugly
bizarre. It's like, my
catfish.
fish died, and she carries out this like 10-pound catfish and just plops it on the ground.
In the garden.
Yeah.
Like next to the vegetables. And
Mr.
it's like still
Whiskers.
gasping for air, just like sitting among their gourds.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that she can tell Kit. He's not judgmental, you know? You can tell her you put your 15-foot catfish in the garden to asphyxiate, and he won't judge you.
Next shot, we see Kit. And he's just kind of looking at this cow that's on the ground. I think it's sleeping. And he just kind of like kicks it a little bit. It doesn't move. And then he just steps on it and walks over it.
She's like, in the voiceover narration, she's talking about how she could tell Kit about the fish because he worked on the farm and he does weird stuff too. And it shows him like prodding the cow.
Kid tells me about how he prods the cows. Sometimes he'll even kick the cows.
They've even got an electric stick you can prod the cow with. Really get it moving.
Yeah, she's describing more and more of his quirks, too. It sounds like he's got tinnitus. He
Yeah, he's
describes
got a-
that somebody's holding a seashell to his ear.
Yeah.
And that's enough to drive anybody fucking psychopathic, I
Oh,
think.
all
I've had
adding
that
up.
for years. Too many loud cymbals and stuff.
God.
It's just a light ringing.
Like a nice seashell being held by your ear.
So they've clearly just had sex. They just finished getting their clothes back on.
Button up some blouses and zipping up some flies and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just back at the river. Looks like they had a little outside shag.
It's a mellow moment. She's pretty much just glad the whole thing's over. She's just kind of like, well, is that really it? And he's like, yeah, that's it. She's like, is that, well, I don't see what all the big fuss was about. And he's like, well, I don't know. I didn't make no fuss.
Yeah. And she's kind of talking about it a little more, and she's like opening up to him here once again. She's like, well, you know, I was worried I'd die before it happened.
Yeah.
And he just immediately points to a tree down the river, and he goes, you
Look
see
at
how
that
that
tree."
tree fell over there? And she's like, yeah, looks like its roots fell into the river. You don't care about anything I say. And she's not even mad. She's just
That's
so
just the
passive.
way Kid is.
I think there's a good chance that he just has like ADD, and this was a time before that was a diagnosis. He's just like, hey, look at that dog over there. Hey, there's a tree in the river over there.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, look at this lady's garbage. She's got some interesting garbage.
If only there was
mean-
Ritalin, he wouldn't have gone and killed 8 people.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I hate to keep steering it into such a serious direction. Men then, especially, and still now, like, aren't emotionally open.
No.
And Kid is just distant, right?
And they like to climb things.
All of his walls and barriers are put up around him.
Yeah.
He can't access any emotion. He can't do any like emotional labor.
No, and he's like a frightened animal. He's very instinctual. When he's cornered, his response is to kill somebody. When he's questioned, his response is to shut down. He just kind of like gives into these instincts and urges with no thought.
Yeah, exactly. Man, he's a really fascinating character.
Yeah, both of them. And for as little as they say.
Played.
Yeah.
And you never really get that glimpse into his past because the entire story is told from her perspective with her narration, her journal entries. So you don't really know what his troubled upbringing is that has led him to become a killer and a criminal and a man boy.
Yeah, this continues his obsession with ephemera and material objects. After they're leaving, he's like, I got this rock here, and it's about the size of a football. And he's like, I'm going to keep it just to remember our first time together. And she's like, okay, whatever. And then he's like carrying this heavy rock, and he's like, chucks it away. Maybe I'm going to exchange it for one that's lighter.
Smart. It's a symbolic rock. It doesn't need to be actually heavy.
Yeah.
It can be a light rock even.
Yeah, it didn't need to be the biggest rock.
Everybody has their postcoital rock, though, don't they? Is it just me?
It's a tradition. Some
Put a rock
families,
in a jar every time.
Every time.
You keep your post-coital rock next to your poop knife.
Put 2 rocks in a jar today.
I'm dropping rocks, baby.
Getting my rocks off.
I'm dropping rocks tonight.
Oh yeah, there's already a rocks expression for that. Yeah.
Well, that's where the term comes from, right? When you're getting your rocks off, you grab the
you
rock.
drop
and-
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
In fact, it was more of a Utica thing getting the rocks off. Over in Boston, it was dropping
rocks.
Yeah, and it kind of just one of them won the
Interesting.
linguistic war there.
I thought that would have been more like a Mormon thing, like soaking, because you're dropping rocks. It sounds kind of passive. Like I just dropped some rocks off into her. There was not an actual sex that occurred. I was dropping rocks.
Let's make soaking more mainstream, though, right?
Yeah, it's headed that way.
You boys get wet. Okay, we're talking Terrence Malick here.
And this is the highbrow section.
Yes.
It's very highbrow.
Terrence Malick is the soak king of South Dakota.
I consider that highbrow.
Terrence Malick, it should be noted, he was the son of an oil baron, a Texas oil baron.
Oh, interesting. Like a There Will Be Blood type.
Yeah.
Ruthless oil tycoon.
Meet my son, Terrence. I'm an oil man.
You're not my son any longer.
He lost his hearing in an explosion.
Oh, you want to make films? Then you're my competitor.
Yeah.
You don't mean that.
But Malick, he went to Harvard and Oxford, studied philosophy. He went back to Boston to teach philosophy at MIT.
Interesting.
And then from there, he decided he was going to try making films.
This guy's no rube off the side of the road.
Yeah.
Off the turnip truck here.
This guy's an intellectual.
And all of his movies, they're rich tapestry, a lot of elements woven together, and you can always tell that he has a bigger idea, a bigger message he's trying to get across. And I feel like I hardly get there, but that's a really fun exercise to try to work your way through and come to decide what this movie means to you, because more than most filmmakers, he leaves a lot unsaid, and he leaves a lot up to you to figure out.
Yeah, he doesn't really explain his movies. He doesn't really do press. He's very reclusive. I don't think he's ever done an interview. Maybe there's one or two around there somewhere, but he doesn't talk about his work.
Like with Badlands, you can tell that it is like a really rich text with a lot of depth. But it also just functions on that surface vibes level. Like it's got those vibes that you can just hang out with. It's got both sides of the coin going for it when it comes to that.
Well, his movies are all super watchable because they have a different vibe. They have these weird textured shots and these voiceovers and sound, like a cool soundscape, and it all just kind of works together. Just sucks you in. Great guy to just sit and hang with.
So this is where Kit makes a vow, and he places some shit into this balloon that he found in the trash, and they send it off. I don't know where he got helium or whatever to make that balloon fly.
What is this trash balloon?
Kit's got his sources.
Yeah, he must.
And it's like
he let it drift off, heart full of longing.
Yeah, he wrote down all his like little secrets and hopes and dreams in there.
Yeah, all of his mid-wit fucking observations and received wisdom.
Like, is Goofy a dog or is he a
I sure don't have a lot to think about, but I got a lot to say.
The way he seems to think and talk does remind me of the writing I did when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
It's like I thought I was deep or like onto something smart, and it's like, no, those are just like dumb thoughts that you've heard elsewhere or like a million other people have said.
You're right. It would be good if there was no war and everybody had enough to eat. Very insightful 15-year-old Vonn.
Fucking genius.
I'm 14 and this is deep.
I think mine were a little more reactionary than what you're describing.
I will assassinate the Pope.
I found the Pope Mobile's weakness. Okay.
It's weak to IEDs.
So this is where he starts getting into some conflict with Pa.
Yeah, he comes riding up to talk to Holly's dad while he's painting a billboard out on the highway.
He's coming to lay it out. He's basically coming to tell Pa, I'm courting your daughter. Pa doesn't like it, but this is sort of the honorable, like, straight-up way to approach the situation, you know? Who would like it? This 25-year-old's hanging around your 15-year-old?
Yeah, normally I'm like, Dad, lay off if your daughter wants to date.
Yeah.
But, like, seriously.
In this
time I
situation,
get it.
it all makes sense.
Yeah, I don't want you hanging around no more. He's like, you know what? You're something. And Kit's like, well, it takes all kinds, sir.
He's not charmed by Kit.
No.
So Holly's dad, he's pissed off. He just goes and shoots her dog as punishment.
Yeah.
He puts it in a duffel bag and tosses it off the bridge. We watch that thing sink down into the river.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, he said he put me in more music lessons to keep me off the streets with Kit. Said that if piano wouldn't keep me off the streets, then maybe the clarinet would.
He's like,
Funny.
you're for the streets.
I like that he's an artist, though.
Yeah.
And he cares about art.
He's an artist with a rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
He'll
like,
just shoot people's dogs.
Gonna shoot your dog.
You know,
Who was that congresswoman or something?
oh,
Recently, she was writing about that in her memoir about how she shot her family's dog.
yeah, it didn't play as well as she wanted it to.
She's like, so sometimes out on the farm, you just shoot your dog.
That was hilarious.
Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe sometimes you just gotta shoot the dog.
Because she thought she was telling a story about how she's a good politician because she has the grit and determination to do the dirty work, roll up her sleeve, and shoot the dog. And it was because it was a mean dog that was like barking at people or something. It's not like it was old Yeller with rabies or something.
Yeah, the dog didn't deserve to die.
And everyone was like, oh, fuck, this lady couldn't train her dog, so she just shot it in the head. Good God.
That's the type of steely leadership you need.
She's not afraid to do what needs to be done, I guess.
She'll come to your house if you need her to.
Now we see Kit in Holly's house, and he's just packing up all of her clothes.
Yeah, so pretty much after he talked to Holly's dad, he immediately went to their house, broke in, and just started packing a suitcase.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just going to steal this guy's daughter now.
Yeah, like a Mongol warrior. He's come there to kidnap his child bride.
I tried it the right way.
Yeah, I tried asking you.
Fuck. So Pa comes in. He's like, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, there's a really cool reveal when he's packing up the suitcase because he's kind of busy about the room, and then he turns away to go and get something else, and you see he's got a revolver in his back pocket. Oh, and just see this guy's always packing heat. So,
of course.
Yeah, and then Pa comes in. He don't know this yet.
Yeah, Pa, by the way, played by Warren Oates. I don't know if we mentioned.
No.
From the Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the pod, Warren Oates.
He's great.
All you Warren Oates stands.
He's no stranger to gun violence. Yeah. Gino, no.
Portable radio. What are you doing in my house, Kit?
I'm taking Holly off with me. Pa's like, no, the hell you are. I'm going to call the cops. And
She's gonna be my child bride, and we're gonna live in the woods and be in love.
yeah, Pa's like, no, you're not either. And
Yeah, and Kit like pulls the gun and he's like, I've got a gun, sir. Do you know what this'll do to you? And he fires a warning shot. It's real intense.
Sounds
Yeah.
real loud, don't it?
Pa kind of calls his bluff. He's just like, go ahead, shoot me, motherfucker. Like, I'm calling the cops. I don't care.
I'm already dead inside.
Then this next shot isn't a warning shot. He shoots him in the back or once or
like,
twice.
Yeah.
I wanted to paint abstract paintings. The great tragedy of my life was that I had to paint these work signs for stores.
Commercialism ruined my art.
I wanted to be an artist. I'm already dead inside.
Man, if billboards were hand painted like this nowadays, I would love that.
Yeah,
They'd
they
be
have so
worth
much more
looking at.
character.
I'd love it if I didn't have to see the same 5 tacky ads over and over and over again on all the electronic billboards.
Oh, I know.
Injury lawyers. I drive by a strip club every day to work, so there's always just like a big old ass for St. Pete's strip club.
Oh, yeah,
An
yeah.
ass ad?
Well, it's just like a stripper's ass.
Nice.
Oh, just a stripper's ass.
Well,
Nice. I like that.
it's not an ad.
It's
for
not
ass.
a regular ass. It's a stripper's ass.
It's an ad for strip clubs for a
No,
strip
thank you.
I feel like it would be annoying to live in Vegas by that Vegas dome because I've heard that now it basically just functions as a giant billboard. So, like, just this massive billboard with a stripper's ass on it.
Well, that's everything in Vegas, though. That city is just a blaze of lights along the main strip.
yeah,
Anyways.
true enough.
That's fucking hideous. I mean,
Yeah.
if Vegas couldn't get any tackier, I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
Apparently they're having trouble with it as a venue because its giant screen is so specific. Like, you need to tool a show just to that screen. So you need, like, one of these big acts to put on a concert there to fully make use of the dome and everything. Like, I'm going to have a residency in this building for a while so I can actually build a show around this weird venue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I-
if you're not Fred Penner, I don't know how you can pack that thing.
Yeah, I was actually going to book it there and do a residency and just read my memoirs.
We could do a high and low there.
Well, what about your one-man show?
He's the only man. He's the one man, even in the audience. So
You
they're-
couldn't even sell tickets to your immediate family.
Vegas is a long way. I don't know.
Well, like one man means you're the only person in the entire vicinity.
Yeah.
That's the way I planned it.
Shit. That would actually be cool. Just you in the center of the Vegas dome, your voice echoing.
Oh, I'm
off the
picturing me
emptiness.
walking in one of those one-man band get-ups too, with like a tuba and like a big bass drum in my back, just
Womp, 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 womp.
marching in circles
This is my one man show.
on the stage in a completely empty arena meant for like 40,000 people.
Something different about you, Vonn. I'm 100 feet tall and projected on a globe.
I'm fully making use of the space.
Man terrorizes city.
So anyway, Holly comes home. It's like the most tragic scene in the film.
Well, she's like around when Kit shoots him, but I think she was
Yeah.
in the other room. And
Yeah, she's like, Daddy, you gonna be okay?
Daddy, are you okay? Are you okay?
We better call the doctor.
Yeah.
Ain't no need to call the doctor. Go and see.
Yeah.
Kit's pretty callous about it.
Yeah, he kind of drags Pa's body out to a shed and puts it in there, and he gets a slap in the face from her. She's middling upset.
Yeah, she's not totally pulling her hair out, screaming her lungs off because she just found her dead dad shot in the living room.
Yeah, no, she can barely react to anything.
And it is a cold-blooded murder. It's not a self-defense thing. Like, the dad has his back turned. I'm pretty sure he
He's
gets shot in the
trespassing
back.
on his property.
Yeah.
And he pulls a gun out on the homeowner, and the homeowner's got his back turned. Like, it's as
Yeah.
fucking
Later-
criminal and cold-blooded as it gets.
He leaves a recording for people to find, and he does try to frame it as like, and by the way, he came at me, and that's why I shot him. None of us wanted this to happen, but that's not what happened. It was a cold-blooded murder. Holly doesn't actually see this either because she's upstairs on the top floor, and the dad and Kit are on the bottom floor when the actual murder occurs. You know, she doesn't actually see maybe how cold-blooded of a murder it was.
Yeah, she's kind of always in denial or disassociating
Yeah.
from what's going
It
on.
really took her a while before she figured out just how trigger-happy Kit
Yeah.
is.
He's the most trigger-happy person I
like,
know.
"No,
It's
shot
hilarious
those
when she
guys."
says that. He has 6 bodies that she knows of, and he's like, Kid is pretty trigger-happy.
Yeah, she's like, maybe this guy
more than anybody else I know, I guess.
I know,
Like-
that's a funny thing to add.
It's like she knows like 3 people. This guy's a mass murderer.
Like, Pa's only killed 4 people,
Yeah.
but Kit's killed 6. That's pretty bloodthirsty.
I know Pa longer, too.
I don't
Yeah.
know much, but that seems like a lot of killing. So after some deliberating, Kit's like, okay, I'm going out and I'll be back after a while. And if you want to call the police, that's fine. Just won't be so hot for me. And so she
Yeah.
kind of just stands around the house, which, by the way, this old house is still standing. People go visit
Interesting.
these places, all these locations in the film.
The Badlands house. He plays it like a wounded puppy dog. He plays her strings the right way to gain her sympathy here, and she does not call the cops. She kind of decides in her mind that their wagons are hitched together now.
Yeah,
wanna
I
call
think
the
this
cops.
is where she decides that she's not a girl anymore.
I'm a woman.
Not a girl, not yet a woman.
Yeah.
Classic.
She's at a crossroads in her life.
Yeah, so she's, smoking a cig.
She smokes
We see her
Pall Malls.
climbing up the stairs, and she's kind of looks around. She's got this new green dress on, kind of mint green.
just walking around in a fog, but she's like that pretty much through most of the movie.
It's a striking image. Yeah, you can see she's kind of kissing her old life goodbye, and she peeks out the window and she sees two kids playing outside.
Yeah.
For anyone interested, that is young Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez.
Oh, interesting.
If you want to go back and see them as like 8-10-year-old boys.
I do. No.
Playing on an overgrown street corner.
You can tell which one is Charlie or Carlos probably at this time, because he's the one with the tiger blood.
He's the one smoking 7-gram rocks.
Yeah.
Sorry, banging 7-gram rocks.
Yeah. Sleeping with hookers.
That was a funny time, hey?
Yeah, that it all came
Put a helmet
crashing
on your
down.
head so you can experience what I'm thinking. What my thoughts are. You wouldn't be able to handle it.
It's like, this guy's got tiger blood. Nothing can hurt him. Then you find out he's got AIDS.
Then we find out that it totally coincides with the timeline of his media meltdown.
Oh, actually, there are consequences to this kind of behavior. Okay.
So here's where we get that cool thing that I like, where Kit goes to, you see him put a couple coins in, he goes to this booth, and he picks LP or EP, and you don't really know exactly what's going on, and he just starts dictating a message saying that him and Holly decided to kill themselves, and all this stuff. And then you see that it's this coin-operated record recording booth. Do you guys remember those
Speaker's Corner?
Speaker's Corner on like Much Music, where you could just like go in and record yourself and get on TV?
That seemed mind-blowing at the time, and now everybody just has YouTube.
Yeah, I remember
everybody's just live streaming everything,
and
all
nobody
the time.
wants to see it. But back in the day, it was like, I was so excited to see whatever idiot was on Speaker's Corner.
Well, Bare Naked Ladies did that music video.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, Be My Yoko Ono. They went in that
was like
Speaker's
before
Corner
they were
and did
even
that.
famous.
Well, that
Yeah,
was-
because they were like just a Toronto band.
Well, that was them going viral.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they did that,
back
then
in
they
the
started
day.
to become a bit of a sensation.
Vintage viral.
Bubonic plague.
But
We're going vintage
so
viral.
I didn't
the
notice there
pestilence.
was an LP option on this.
Yeah, well, there
You
was
go
like
in
two
there with
different
your
options.
fucking manifesto.
Yeah.
Okay, how long do I got for this? 90 minutes? Okay, here we go.
It's always been my life's dream to read Moby Dick. Get it on vinyl.
Wow.
Get it down on wax. Call me Ishmael.
This is.
I
gonna
mean, that's
be
pretty rich for us to say, talking for 5 hours about fucking president movies. That's enough to fill 3 LPs.
Listen to our manifesto on Reagan. Listen to our manifesto on Wheelie.
We are 3 times crazier than Kit.
Those are manifestos, those episodes.
Yeah.
There'll be evidence in court, I'm sure.
Ridiculous 6 has manifesto vibes when we're talking about how we lost our faith in humanity and don't care if we live or die anymore. all this other stuff.
That'll all be used against us.
I am going to explode in a public place because of this movie.
So, yeah, they burn the house down. Kit
Burn
comes
him
back.
down the host. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking heads come up. No. This is a serious movie.
Make your stupid jokes,
Yeah.
Vonn.
Smarten up.
Shut your fucking mouth.
Talking
Vonn.
heads have no place here.
So Kit soaks the house with gas, and they leave the old Victrola playing his little confession EP on repeat outside as the house is set alight, and they
And
flee.
it's sort of just another thing that shows what a dumb criminal he is, because he leaves this recording to buy them time where he talks about how they're planning to kill themselves. But really, if he had just burned the house down and they had just left in the night, that probably would have bought them more time. Like, they would have just assumed that everybody burned in a house fire or something.
Well, yeah,
But,
and they
and he
definitely wouldn't have known that there
stole
was
the
2
car.
people involved.
like, he could have muddied the waters a little better than leaving a tape basically confessing to the crime.
It's almost like he's not very fucking smart.
No, midwit.
Very instinctual fella. So yeah, they steal the car.
An
I operate
interesting-
on instinct, babe.
Interesting thing about this scene is the special effects coordinator got severely burnt.
Oh, nice.
This was a pretty bad accident. It's really cool how the scene's stitched together, the way the fire just kind of slowly...
It's an
you
awesome
see it
fire.
dance. Yeah, the way it dances around the house and just...
You get to see it, the whole thing happen.
Yeah, and you see Pa's body burning there. But anyway, the special effects coordinator... Now, they had covered everything with liquid cement or... it's kind of clear stuff, but the vapors are flammable, right?
Oh, okay.
And so one of the amateur tech guys didn't know that you got to let that stuff sit for a while for the gases to burn off before you
Interesting.
fucking light it. So they were all standing in there, and he's like, wait, fuck, no, don't. And the guy lit the match, and the place just went like a big fucking fireball.
Yikes.
And Sissy Spacek and her husband, to this day, Jack Fisk, who was
What a
the
great
production designer, they met on this film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
He was
described
25,
seeing it in
she
the
was
behind
15.
the scenes. I think they were closer in age.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he worked with Malick. He worked also on Killers of the Flower Moon, The Revenant, There Will Be Blood. Like, he's one of the best set
Interesting.
guys, production guys in the business.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Malick works good with fire too. What's the movie he did after this one? Before
Days of Heaven.
Days of Heaven has an intense fire scene where this farm field is set ablaze, and you just see 20 people just trying to put the fire out and put water down to keep it from spreading, and there's a big locust swarm happening too, and it's just looks dangerous as fuck.
It's breathtaking.
dramatic.
I actually watched Days of Heaven twice in the last month.
Whoa, that's too much.
I love fire.
I had somebody over and I put it on and watched it. Then I was in the hotel in Dawson Creek for work. And I just like, you know what, maybe I'll check out Hotel TV. Maybe there'll be like a really nice movie I can settle in with and watch. I turn on the TV, title card, Days of Heaven, right there. I was like, fuck yes,
Hell yeah.
this couldn't be a better movie right now.
I love
Perfect
Hotel TV.
timing.
Oh, I know, and it just always hits just right.
Especially when it's something like that and not a Hobbit movie. I kind of caught that on Hotel TV once. I was like, this isn't, I don't want this. I'll watch Ford versus Ferrari. Better movie.
Yes, good movie. Absolutely one you can just sit down and watch. Yes, Days of Heaven. Check it out, listeners. First watch this one.
If you're looking to get into Malick, doing his first two movies really eases you into what he does afterwards.
New World is second most accessible behind this one, I would say.
All right, so Kit and Holly, they stole a car, and they decided they're going to go live in the forest. They're going to make a nice little shelter out there, dig some tunnels, make some holes, do drill training, war exercises in case the law comes coming.
We hid out in the wilderness, down by the river in a grove of cottonwoods. It being the flood season, we built our house in the trees with tamarisk walls and willows laid side by side to make a floor. There wasn't a plant in the forest that didn't come in handy.
Here we just get a bunch of classic Malick stuff.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Wildlife, super close-ups of trees and bugs on trees, and
The Gasset Hour music.
It's very idyllic. It's the shit hasn't hit the fan for them. They're able to kind of live in this fantasy where things are going to be okay. It's amazing the shelter they're able to construct in this forest.
well, yeah, they build this bomb-ass treehouse.
Yeah,
and Kit booby traps it like Home Alone. He's got log traps and little holes that he hides in.
Yeah, she says that he changed the password every day. Every morning we'd have to make a new password for entry.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's-
guess today the password's going to be password 3.
Fidelio.
They're basically living like the Ewoks or living like the elves
Yeah.
in Lord of the Rings in this beautiful tree structure.
It's like the Lost Boys. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a childhood fantasy.
Yeah, but unlike Lost Boys, where they can just have this total free will thing going on, this freewheeling thing going on, Kit made her go and get her books, so she had to study while they're on this vacation.
Yeah, that sucked dick.
He's like, I don't want you losing a step while we're out hiding in the woods there.
Keep practicing your Spanish.
Yeah.
Chiamo Brian.
Mind your P's and Q's. Yeah.
Mi trabajo.
It's sort of a doomed existence they're living at. Like, it's a doomed romance. It's all going to come crashing down inevitably. There's,
I don't know what the weather in South Dakota can't be that warm. They can't
it's
stay out there
cold.
longer than a couple seasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the height of summer.
But people have shelters like that. Remember we saw that one in the news?
I saw
last
another
week?
one in the
Yeah.
news like
It was
2
a
days ago.
two-story shelter. It had flooring. It had a working washing machine
It was amazing. Like, they had cooking like a toaster oven in there.
in the middle of the city. And so, I mean, it's not out of the question. And, you know, that's in Edmonton. They'd have been there for a year or two.
And we've already seen how resourceful Kit is with foraging and scrounging things up.
Yeah.
He knows where to find things to make a working shelter.
So they're out there in the great cathedral of nature. And yeah, that's, like you said, Malick's milieu. That's where, you know, he draws all the parallels between people's interiority and what's going on in nature around them. And she says, like, well, mostly we just laid on our backs. Sometimes it was like being in a big marble hall, the way we talked in low voices and heard the tiniest sound.
Yeah. Nature is able to sustain them and nourish them too. Like where they end up in the Badlands, you'll get these scenes where there's just nothing for miles and miles in any direction. But in these early scenes of them on the lam, it's all lush. They're on the run. There's just like the chirping of animals, and there's beauty, and they're not starving for food. And,
right.
you know, as they kind of go further and further along, reality sort of smacks them in the face a little harder.
They're surrounded by life and a forest here, not scrub brush.
Yeah, tumbleweeds.
It parallels with Natural Born Killers nicely, where I think Woody Harrelson in the interview with Wayne Gale at the end mentions that it was like Garden of Eden at first.
Obviously, this movie must have left a pretty big impact on Tarantino for this to be a theme that he would go on to explore multiple times with Natural Born Killers and True Romance. And
definitely.
The kind of the couple, the criminal couple. There's one of those in Pulp Fiction as well, Honey Bunny and Mr. Orange from whatever.
I love you, Honey Bunny.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Mr. Orange is your go-to for Tim Roth. Mine is Abomination.
Oh, from Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. You put my body in something like that when I'm 20 years, and you put what I know about fighting in a body 20 years younger than me. That's somebody I wouldn't want to fight.
Brilliant.
Is he Australian in that?
He's just British. Like. Yeah.
I grew to love the forest, the cooing of the doves, and the hum of dragonflies in the air. Make it always seem so lonesome, like everybody's dead and gone. When the leaves rustle overhead, it was like the spirits were whispering about all the little things that bothered them. This is kind of where she pulls out that stereopticon, right?
That's another cool little gadget they have in this movie.
Yeah.
I just love.
And she's
all
looking
that
at
shit.
pictures of guys unearthing the Sphinx in like the early 20th century, and she's kind of musing about the nature of time and like how those people in that picture, like, do they know that they're not here right now? Like, are they thinking about it? Have they met the love of his life? Does it show on his face? The way this movie draws you in with these things is fucking out there, man.
Really outlines how kids those days spent too much time on their stereopticons.
Yeah, you know,
Always looking down at their stereopticons.
I mean,
they can't have a conversation with one another. They're just sitting around the tables.
I do always think about like how cell phones and constant access to the internet have just Swiss cheesed my brain and destroyed it at this point.
But also look at just how much smarter the average person is today just about random facts and tidbits than Kit was.
It's
because
true.
We have more information.
Yeah.
We have so much more access. Like, she's unpacking entire worlds, timelines, like layers of philosophy in her brain just by looking at some pictures with a stereopticon.
And
whereas
Wikipedia.
like now, like, we have all dead friends and who still have social media profiles. Like, you know, celebrities we're in contact with. Like, everybody has a footprint.
Dude,
like, we're so much more connected to one another in that way now, and it blurs the lines between time and space even more.
I always wonder if there's like a muscle in the brain that's not being exercised now. Like, maybe you were meant to just sit in the woods and think about the Sphinx for half an hour.
There's,
you know?
there's definitely value in being bored.
Yeah.
And that's a thing it's a rarer commodity these days, but it's worthwhile to just sit and think something through. It's a good exercise for the mind. It keeps you sharp, keeps you fresh.
And it's fascinating to watch that unfold in a movie, to just like have these room for these philosophical diversions and these musings and ponderings.
So Terrence Malick he's not fully slow cinema where it's just something like Jean Delman where it's just like super slow and ponderous and you really just sit and marinate in something for a really
just to
long
suck
time.
you in, to get like the whole thing is an exercise in sucking you in.
Yeah, but he's flirting with those elements for sure. Where he really lets you sit and marinate in these different modes, these different scenes.
Yeah.
The waters are warm. Come on in.
Yeah, this movie's paced pretty briskly, but it does have a lot of those ideas that it likes to just throw at you and you go, huh, well, wait a minute.
It's surprising that there are as many kind of quiet moments as there are in this when the movie is like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's actually a lot of action in it.
Lots of action and lots of empty space. It's nice. Kit is fishing in the river, and he decides that the best way to fish is just like shoot it with his gun. So he's just starting to like shoot down at the river water.
He's proving not to really be the outdoorsy type.
I think he was failing with the net.
Yeah.
It's like a bad episode of Alone where people get really frustrated with their gill nets.
Sissy Spacek is like, you know, so most of the time it was good with us, me and Kid out here. But then every once in a while he'd yell at me and I'd wish he would fall into the lake and drown.
Well, yeah, we actually kind of do see in the short time they're there, which It's got to be a couple weeks or so, but in the time they're there, we see the relationship deteriorate where they have little spats. Kit's pissed off because he can't catch a fish. And
pretty normal squabble, and she
Yeah.
describes it as such.
yeah, and when you're out living in a forest shanty and you only have one person to talk to, you're going to get pretty fucking annoyed with him half the
She's
time.
just sitting there silently watching him. He doesn't listen when she fucking talks anyway, and I'm sure that he's the kind of guy who's like, no, you're not doing it right. Give me that fucking thing.
Ain't this the life of Riley?
Yeah, yeah. He goes, take a break, Red. Life of Riley, huh?
This is turning into a Blair Witch
Made
scenario.
me laugh.
These people out in the woods.
Where's the map, Red? Where's the map? Are you sure you didn't put the map back in the backpack?
We aren't lost. Tree Fort's just over that hill.
We've been walking east for 10 hours. We're right back where we started.
You know, he does build little rock figurines later in this movie
That's
to draw
right.
another Blair Witch connection.
Yeah, to mark where they got him.
Yeah, that was interesting. Very poignant little moment. They're leaving their mark on the world as they go along, leaving these little time capsules and little monuments, little stone
Oh
monuments.
yeah,
and
they
things.
do dig in a little time capsule, and this is a nice little line that they have where we can come back and dig them up later. They'll be the
Yeah.
same, but we'll be different.
You
And that,
kinda,
and that
like-
draws along with the themes of the stereopticon about these moments in
Yeah.
time that are, they're ephemeral. Like,
The Sphinx.
they're always just beyond our grasp.
This movie works like the way sort of looking back on a memory works too, right? You have the voice, you can kind of work your way through it, and it's a vignette of these important moments that make a bigger meaning in your life later. Like a picture, like looking at a stereopticon.
Look at this photograph.
I am Stereopticon. Come with me, Sam Witwicky. We must look at pictures of the Sphinx.
I think you will find there is more than meets the eye.
Bah, bah, bah.
Do you want to see a photo of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Witwicky.
And it is interesting that, like a memory, every time you remember something, you remember it a little differently. Like, it's not like a photograph in your mind. You're repiecing it together every time you remember it. And she's kind of, as she's looking back on the events, remembering Kit differently, too, as the movie goes along. Like, okay, coming to realizations about him and stuff like that.
So this is where they're besieged by some bounty hunters.
They got the drop on him, but Kit sees him coming, does his little, like,
Yeah, he was
hawk call.
fucking ready for him.
Yeah, he
So
tipped
there's
him
three
off.
men with guns. He jumps down from the tree and goes into a foxhole.
He goes full Rambo for a minute here.
Yeah, he's eating things that would make a billy goat puke.
I am impressed by his survival skills, his ability to build this sophisticated tree hut and this bamboo trap or whatever, this trappy hidey hole he hides in.
Yeah. What he calls hell, you call home.
I used to be in charge of $1 million equipment. Now I can't even get a job. Inseminated cows.
A garbage truck's a sophisticated machine. You don't just get to ride on one of those. You have to take at least a course or something.
Can't even sell a pair of boots. They come up to the guys. What size are they? They're your legs.
Yeah.
The size of your legs.
It's a missed opportunity that he didn't
And I
just
look at the
like,
boots, and his feet are still in the boots, but
Johnny.
he's gone.
Johnny.
Yeah. Why didn't he put sharpened sticks in the bottom of a pit? That's like,
should've.
yeah,
That's a savage trap.
total missed opportunity.
Covered in feces.
Yeah, rub his shit on them so that they do an infection when they poke the guy.
You ever do an
Punji
infection?
sticks. Yeah, like Robo Wars.
So yeah, these guys, they come storming in, and Kit kind of pops out of his hidey hole, and he starts popping them off one at a time.
Yeah, just goes full VC, just executes these fucking guys. The last guy just starts running, and he shoots him in the back.
Yeah, he's shooting people in the back like Death Wish here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty handy with that gun. Like, he chases them down, murders them all in cold blood again. Sissy Spacek still kind of able to justify this. He kind of frames it to her like, well, it would be different if these three were lawmen, but these were just bounty hunters trying to get the drop on us. Who knows? They just would have massacred us probably.
Yeah,
So
for reward money. And she's like, oh, well, if you put it that way.
I guess
okay.
that makes sense. Yeah, that's not that bloodthirsty to murder those three guys.
Kid always made a lot of sense after he did a murder.
It seemed to make more sense for me to agree with him than to argue in those moments.
So this is where they go and they hide out with Kit's buddy Kato from the garbage route, who we met in the first scene of the movie.
Good old Kato.
Yeah, and throughout this entire interaction, Kit is just holding a rifle. Every single time he's talking to his buddy, he's just got a gun in his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, he feels like a trapped animal already, and he can't even trust this guy, which I guess I wouldn't entirely trust him either if I was in his shoes.
Kato rats him out as soon as possible, or he tries to.
Did he?
Well,
I feel like there's some ambiguity toward
I feel like
this
that's
scene.
ambiguous.
I think he was heading to rat him out, or at least run away.
It seemed fishy. Well, what basically happens is, at a certain point, Kato and Kit and Holly go out for a walk in this field, and then Kato kind of coyly is like, I just gotta go make one phone call before I...
So he convinces them to go out there to dig up a box of rare coins or something like that.
Yeah, there's some Spanish coins.
And he's like, oh, I forgot my shovel. I'll be right back. And so he starts walking away, and he's not taking his eyes off them the entire time. And then after he's a bit of a distance away, he kind of starts to turn around and runs towards the car. And he's like, shovel's in my car! Shovel's in my car! And then that's when Kit starts chasing after him.
It gives him a shooty in the gut.
So it looked to me like he was going to go rat him out, or at least run away. Run away anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a shame because they do have these scenes where they're bonding with Kato, and Holly kind of opens up and tells a joke that Kato seems to find pretty funny.
About the naked guy in the asylum.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why are you walking around naked but with a hat and gloves on? He's like, well, you never know who might come and visit or something like that.
Yeah. Best to be prepared.
Kato just thought it was the funniest thing ever. He just laughs his ass off. And then Holly's like, oh, do you think that was funny? And just sobers up immediately. No.
Yeah. And it's a pretty messy, slow killing. Kato gets shot in the gut, and he kind of crawls back into the house.
Wordlessly. He doesn't scream in pain. He doesn't say, you bastard, you shot me, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He just sadly and resignedly just kind of goes upstairs to his bed.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And he knows he's done for. He's
in his shabby little house.
50 miles from anywhere. He's in the middle of a huge farm field.
Yeah, Holly's downstairs and she's like, oh, well, should we get help for Kato? Like, why did you shoot him? And he's just, once again, Kit's deflecting. He's like, look at all this junk. And of course, Kato's a garbage man, and he's got all kinds of scraps and things like that.
Kit's so jealous.
Just junk everywhere. And she's like, why would you shoot your friend? And he's like, man, what a bunch of junk he's got.
Yeah. She goes upstairs to talk to Kato, and he does talk to her because she finds he's got a spider in a jar, and she's like, is that your spider in the jar? And he's like, yeah. She's like, do you feed him? And he's like, yeah, feed her flies. And does it bite?
Never bit me. So it turns out that Kato had a couple buddies coming over here, and this couple comes over looking for him, and
yeah, they're asking about a car or something, I think.
Yeah. And so Kit
they're
walks
driving
out.
a nice Studebaker.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Kit's got his rifle as always. Or no, does he have his rifle yet?
He's got his pistol.
He's got, yeah.
Yeah, Kit finds himself in this situation a couple times where somebody will show up after they've just murdered someone, and then he comes out and he's like, they're sick, or they're actually gone now, they had to leave. And he's trying to hustle a ride from these two. He's like, Kato had to leave suddenly, but he said the more I didn't talk about the situation, the better, but he said you guys would give me a ride into town. They're like, oh, really?
Kato said that?
Yeah. They're not really buying it.
No, because he's
like, why don't you
liar.
guys why don't you guys come out to the field? And then Holly's talking to the girl, and
Kit pulls his gun on. There's like, we're going for a walk.
yeah. Holly's like, what's his name? The girl's like, Jack. You love him? Yeah. What's he gonna do to us? I don't know. I got to stick by Kit. He feels trapped. And the girl's just like, I can imagine. She's so calm and resigned, being like, oh, so you have a boyfriend too? Okay, and that's your okay. So my boyfriend's Jack, and we're just kind of just following whatever our boyfriends are telling us.
Just a couple gals.
I'm sure it'll be okay.
Oh, you want to talk about boyfriend troubles? Kit kills people all the time.
I'm beginning to think he's bloodthirsty.
Kit just locks them in the storm cellar, and then they're like, are you going to let us out? And he's like, I don't know. He just fires 2 rounds blind through the door of the storm cellar.
Yeah, we don't know if we got him yet. I like to think he did.
Yeah, he's like, I wonder if I got him. I ain't gonna check. And they just run off. Yeah, this is the most cowardly criminal move he's done so far, just blindly firing at these people who are no threat already locked into the storm cellar. It's like, oh, it's becoming harder to excuse his criminality.
Yeah, and Kit moves Kato's body into the shed, and then he's angry. We don't hear it. It's another one of these scenes in the movie where you maybe have voiceover, or you have silence, or you have music, but you don't hear what's going on, actually. Kit's just fucking ranting and screaming, and he's clearly upset. And in those moments where he's losing his cool, the movie just kind of turns down the volume. I think it's putting you maybe in Holly's shoes where she's just kind of passively choosing not to engage with any that she deems too unpleasant.
Yeah, well, that's just Kit being Kit.
Time for some daydreaming about how nice the wind is through the trees.
So they take off in the Studebaker, and there's a nationwide manhunt and curfew out for them, which we see some clips. And on TV, there's like, a famous detective was brought in from Boston. He could find no clues. It's just like this guy. Huh?
I found
Anybody
no
see
clues.
them? No? Well, I'm out of ideas.
Yeah.
How many clues did you find, sir? None.
We don't know how to scan for semen samples yet, so we no chance of getting this guy.
There was no clues. I mean, the house burned down. There must have been some clues. There must have been like a gas can or something.
It's not exactly Elliot Ness. It sucks.
Have you tried looking at Kit's taxes?
Sir,
Maybe you can get him that way.
Sir, you're in the wrong town. I think you're in the wrong Dakota. They're in South Dakota.
I'm a Boston detective. I don't belong here.
How do you like them apples?
Applesauce, bitch.
And Kit's like, he has a funny response because like there's some other crime they're showing on TV. He's like, they're probably going to blame that on me too, bastards.
Yeah.
He's so
no accountability.
Poor Kit. Life must be so hard. Like everybody's wrongfully blaming you for killing 5 people.
Right. Yeah. No accountability. Always playing the victim.
They come after me first.
Wah,
If they was lawmen, I wouldn't have done it. But they was bounty hunters.
They were going to get out of that storm cellar and they were going to attack us.
Yeah, they would have ratted us out.
They had knives, Holly. You didn't see them.
I believed Kit when he said it.
So they got to get some supplies, and rather than go to a store where they be instantly identified, they decide to go rob a rich man's house. Kind of,
Smart.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you need money quick, go to the richest house you can find.
Yeah.
And rob them.
Not so rich that they have a private army on their property.
No. You want medium rich. They live outside of town. Like in the city, they live in a mansion outside of town, so they're kind of isolated. Out in the country, you can go there. But yeah, they don't have mercenaries or bodyguards or the Secret Service.
Yeah, if you know any places like that, comment below. Mm-hmm. Maybe a place with no one there but a single lonely man and a deaf maid would be perfect.
Yeah, that's
like
ideal. Yeah, or like in A Clockwork Orange, how they go out to the country and there's just like some old man living in the country, something like that.
Try to find a place with a big porcelain cock.
Oh, you want to go to the one where there's the single woman living.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The artist, the dancer, whatever.
The old man got Alex caught. The old man in the wheelchair with David Prowse, who played Darth Vader, who's a hulking giant of a man. You don't want to go up against Darth Vader.
No, that's true. He can rip your arms out like a Chewbacca. Rip your arms out of the sockets like a Chewbacca would have. They go to this rich guy's house in this movie, and it feels like they're very out of their element in this house. This is a classy place made of like marble, and there's just art everywhere. There's like statues and busts and things, and they seemed a lot more comfortable living in the forest amongst nature in an Ewok treehouse than they seem in this environment with the Roman columns.
This house is still around in South Dakota too.
Why ain't you got a bunch of tin cans and hubcaps hanging from your wall?
Yeah. Where's your junk? Your junk's different than Cato's junk.
Yeah.
Look at all the junk he has. Picasso, who's that?
It's a major theme in this movie is people's junk.
There's definite parallels. Like this isn't that different than Cato's place. Cato has like random scraps of wire hanging on the wall and shit, but this guy's got like an expensive bust, but it's all kind of just junk, you know?
I was talking to Mitch about this before we started recording, how it reminds me of George Carlin's famous bit, the place for your stuff. You never notice how your stuff is stuff and someone else's stuff is shit?
Yeah.
So you go to someone else's place and you don't feel comfortable because someone else's shit is everywhere. You got no place to put your stuff.
It's so true.
And that's all a house is. It's just a place to put your stuff. Get your shit out of my house.
One man's shit is another man's stuff.
Yeah.
One man's junk is another man's marble bust.
But that's all we have in this world is those little things that,
Our
are
stuffs.
connected to us.
Unless
Our sex rocks.
Unless you're like a Steve Jobs and you're like, I reject materialism and I live in a bare room with just me and an iPhone and I sleep on the hardwood floor and that's it.
7 black turtlenecks.
Yeah, and an iPhone.
7 pairs of Levi's.
That's it.
1
7 black socks.
Swedish penis enlarger.
1 book.
And a
Swedish
shoelace.
penis enlargers are my bag, written by Steve Jobs.
Kind of stuff is not my bag.
It's a phone. It's a penis enlarger. It's a phone. It's a penis enlarger.
Revolutionary.
Do you get it?
U2 song. Uno, dos, tres, catorce.
He's a genius.
It's the penis enlarger. Connected to your entire Apple suite.
Just that iconic Apple commercial with the silhouettes dancing, but they've got an enlargement pump in the silhouette.
I can see it.
Those silhouette Apple commercials were so sharp.
Iconic.
So, yeah, Kit claims they're there to check the meter, goes inside with their rifle, tells the guy they're on the run. He just basically comes clean with them, and he's like, oh, they're the murderers from the news. Well,
Yeah.
stay as long as you like.
He's very open with his requests. He's just kind of like, we thought we might stay here for a day or two. How'd that be? And the guy's like, well, yeah, I guess that'd be okay. That's kind of his go-to line when they're leaving later. He'll be like, we thought we'd borrow your car for a bit. How'd that be?
Yeah, Holly kind of just goes for a stroll around the estate. I wasn't even thinking about how to slip off. The world was like a faraway planet to which I could never return. And this rich guy's got another one of those recorders in there.
Yeah, he's got a dictaphone. I like the Flintstones version more, where it's just a dicta-bird, where you can take a memo on a bird.
It's a living.
Quack! You and Holly are going to kill yourselves. Quack!
And he's putting all of his stupid little ideas into it, like we were talking about earlier. Listen to your parents and teachers. They got a line on most things. There's always an outside chance you can learn something. And keep an open mind and consider the minority opinion, but when it becomes the majority opinion, consider changing along to that and like stuff.
He turned into William S. Burroughs. He's just ranting into a dictaphone.
Welcome to Kit's blog. This guy's just dropping off his little chestnuts everywhere he can.
Yeah, the blandest.
He missed his calling. If he was born today, he would have been an influencer or something, you know? He would have actually had success.
Yeah. Well, if you can produce a slick YouTube video, then yeah. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of those YouTube philosophers talking.
Yeah.
There's just the dumbest platitudes. Oh, but he has good production value and he's handsome.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like music playing behind him. That
He's got little
sounds
plushies
vaguely
behind him. That guy looks
You know?
fun.
Yeah.
I want to know what Kit thinks about vaccines. I want to know what he thinks. Is the world flat or is it round? I want to know everything in this guy's head.
Oh, I don't think you'd like his opinions on those things.
The world's a bowl. It's an upside down bowl is what it is.
Some people think that you take a jab and you makes you better, more immune, but I know that it gives you 5G.
So Holly talks to the rich man who's sitting around in the dining room with his maid.
She's always kind of getting to know the victims or the people who are they're coming across their path more than Kit is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of is. She's good. She's kind of a good compliment to Kit because she's sort of okay at getting through their guard of the victims and actually getting into a conversation with them and maybe letting them feel a little less tense and drop their guard a bit.
Yeah, and for her, it's nice to just have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who's not a dead collie corpse on the side of a road. She's traveling with Kit.
Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of funny because like Kit just kind of talks at her and she just kind of talks at the victims, but they kind of have a conversation, but there's still a weird sort of power imbalance because she's always with this armed lunatic.
In a way, she sort of can relate to these people who are at Kit's whim because I think she's starting to feel a little more trapped with him too and starting to feel like when she's ruminating, she's thinking about, is there somebody out there, a soulmate for me? She's not really thinking of Kit as her soulmate. And I think she's sort of starting to feel trapped in this situation too. So there's a little bit of bonding going on. Like maybe she can relate more to these people that are being held hostage than she can even relate to Kit.
Yeah, I think she's feeling more and more hostage. Yeah. But she feels resigned to it, as we see when she's walking around this estate. And
She's wavy gravy.
she's taking in all the beauty of the world around her.
She's a buoy on the current, being carried by the current.
But that's the thing about these two. They're always just exactly in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in that dining room, they have the furniture all covered in white sheets. I just wanted to point out, it looked like the finale of Elektra.
Kit should have turned the oven on and blown the place up.
So is that a thing people do? Rich people?
Yeah, because you just have too much space and too much shit. So it's cheaper than hiring somebody to dust everything all the time. You just cover it up because you have too much stuff. So that's why we need to protect our wealthy elite. They keep our dust cloth makers in business.
Exactly.
My boss yesterday came and talked to me and one of my other coworkers, and we'd mentioned something about, he's like, do you guys need anything? He was like helping us with some stuff. I'm like, yeah, I could use more money. And he's like, yeah, I get that. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, groceries are fucking expensive right now. And then he started telling us about how he just talked to the president of the company's son,
Baron,
who he was just talking to, and he was complaining that he went to go buy groceries, and he lives in Vancouver, and it was $5 for some green onions.
Good God.
Jesus.
Which is expensive, granted. And we're like, yeah, that's fucking gross. And he's like, yeah, my wife told me to pick up some green onions on the way home for dinner. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not spending $5 on green onions. And like, I know this guy has fucking buckets of money. So after my boss leaves, me and my other buddy were laughing about it, and I'm like, oh, poor Jeff. He won't have an extra splash of color on his stir fry.
I mean, it's one
He's garnishing
banana.
our wages because you can't garnish
his salad. Yeah, no, exactly. That was what we were saying. That was exactly.
The great thing about green onions is if you buy them from the grocery store, you can just put the bulbs right in some soil and they'll just keep growing.
Yeah.
I put them in water.
Yeah.
Or water.
Yeah, a cup of water.
Unlimited green
Keep 'em
onions.
for a while.
To your boss's credit, at least he used something that people most, like the common folk, know and can relate to.
Yeah.
He's not talking about the price of caviar or
No, my boss doesn't eat caviar, but
I
like
tried
his. Oh yeah, the president guy. Yeah,
I can barely afford my beluga caviar anymore.
Have you seen the prices of beluga these days? Good grief.
the caviar index. They don't even talk about the price of eggs or a gallon of milk. It's just how much is caviar there? Oh fuck, man, I'm not moving to BC.
I can't build another house there. Enrique had to reduce the number of elements for dinner from 5 to 3. No ceviche tonight.
Anyway, where the fuck are we?
All right. They're at the rich guy's house.
They get another incident where a guy shows up at the house, just like at Cato's place. A random shows up there who has a meeting with the rich guy, and so they have to answer the door, and Kid has to play like, oh, actually, he's got the flu now. He can't. The guy's like, this is highly unusual.
It's weird.
I spoke to him yesterday, and he told me to come out here, and he never told me to not come
He
out
sent
here.
me a text saying, you up?
Yeah.
That guy, by the way, is Terrence Malick himself.
Oh, is it?
In his only on-camera appearance.
Yeah.
Interesting. He kind of gets sent off, but Kit basically assumes the jig is up. That he tells her, like, come on, Tex, we got to get out of here right now.
This kid's just mega heat score.
Yeah.
This guy just gives off nervous vibes and the energy that he's up to no good.
Yeah, he sucks at this.
It's this rich guy's mansion, and he opens the door, and he's wearing a Canadian tuxedo. Like, he does not belong in this mansion answering the door for this rich guy, so it's a red flag.
I guess people weren't used to mass killers, serial killers at that time.
No.
It just wasn't a thing that was in the popular consciousness much. Like, there was, Ed Gein, Albert Fish. There was, a couple serial killers in America by that point, but,
So it was me
Bonnie and Clyde.
Ed Gein,
And Kit.
and Albert.
And Holly.
Kit.
I'm having dinner with Albert Fish.
We were at rich
And
guy's
I said,
house.
this is some pretty good caviar. And he says, that's not caviar. That's a child's head. So I turn and I look at the Baba Duke. all the boogeymen were there.
Yeah. Fish was a child eater.
Yeah.
I don't know Albert Fish. Sounds...
That's a good Wikipedia read. Yeah, that's a sick fuck.
That's a guy who it's fun to look at his x-ray because he was like a crazy person. He used to put nails into his body, little pins of metal in his body, and they took an x-ray and it's like, oh, he's got 20 pins in his scrotum.
Yeah, he was a self-made Cenobite.
Yeah. He was pinballs, and he wrote a letter to like the parents of one of the children he ate, like basically apologizing for it. It was not a very good apology.
He's like, yeah, I'm sorry I licked the succulent meat off your child's bones and shit.
He's like that. Yeah, the cheeks were like sweetbreads. They were delicious. I couldn't help it.
Oh, God.
Nice.
You just pivoted to a true crime podcast. Those get likes, right?
Yeah, it's fitting for our criminal couples
Step aside,
episode.
Serial.
It's pretty great. In Terrifier 3, there's a true crime podcaster who'd been like following Art the Clown's exploits.
Oh, I hope if there's a podcaster in a movie, you know they're gonna get it.
Oh, fucking A, do they ever.
That's
better than anybody ever got it in a movie.
That,
Spoiler.
That's sort of the plot of Tusk, too, with Justin Long, the Kevin Smith movie. He's like a podcaster who goes to investigate this crazy doctor and gets messed with.
Gets turned into a walrus.
Yeah. The long and
That's
short
a
of
much
it.
less fun movie, I'll say.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're getting ready to bounce from this place, and he goes to the rich man, and he's like, "What you doing?" And the rich man's like, "I'm just thinking." And Kit's like, "Good way to kill time as any. Hey, listen, we're gonna take the Cadillac for a while."
How'd that be?
How'd that be?
That'd be just fine.
Don't worry, I won't let her drive. And he points to Holly.
He's got a superficial glib charm. I like it.
So then they take a little bit of his clothes. Kit notably takes a Panama hat from the rich man. He's like, "Oh, that's a pretty nice hat." And it looks
good.
just like the Panama hat that Holly's pa wore.
Linen jacket.
Yeah.
Kind of to replace his leather jacket.
As they're wandering around the grounds getting that car, and he's like, "Guy must pay a fortune for upkeep on this place. You get a little money in your pocket and you think all your problems are solved? Well, let me tell you, they're not."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Kid might come knocking, then you got a problem.
yeah, exactly. You're the fucking problem, buddy. I guess he's not entirely wrong.
They're going further and further out into these Badlands, and like at a certain point, they've just abandoned the road, and they're just kind of driving out into the deserts.
Yeah, so they take off out of town and they want to stay off the highways to keep away from the law. So they go tearing off into the Badlands, following power lines as best they can, based on what Kit thinks is a west or whatever, a good direction to go.
Kit would sometimes ram a cow to save on ammo, and we'd cook it. Once we had to eat a bunch of salt grass. It tasted like cabbage.
I don't understand how this car makes this trip. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're just tearing through this rocky terrain. Like they're going to blow a tire somewhere, or the radiator, but
And they're getting
They
the
do it.
fuel off of these
would
random
know.
little like pipe outlets that stick out of the ground. Like the people around here call that drip gas, and they just like
leakage from pipelines. I've never heard of this.
No, this is some Mad Max shit. Just like pulling up to a drippy pipe somewhere, and like we can get enough gas. To sustain ourselves.
drip gas.
We can go further into the desert with the drip gas.
The Kit was glad to leave South Dakota behind. He said that if communists ever dropped the atomic bomb, he'd wish they'd put it right in the middle of Rapid City.
Shots fired.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah, there's
The
like
heart of America, Rapid City.
the vibe's getting a lot more.
freedom coming from Kit.
There was a young man in the Badlands who could end communism.
Kid
We let-
started off as a lifeguard, and he wound up in Rapid City.
Said one garbage man could destroy communism.
So we get some gorgeous shots of Kit holding the rifle behind his neck. He's gazing at the flat Badlands with the mountains lining the horizon.
Endless horizon from here on out. It's nothing but open plains.
Yeah, Holly's like, it's kind of nice being around here, and there's nobody around, and it's quiet. What do you call it? And he's like, solitude. And
Yeah, he says that like solitude's a nicer way to put it. The way she frames it is loneliness. The way he's framing it is solitude. So you can see they've kind of got a drifting perspective when it comes to that stuff too. And the vibe of the movie is getting a lot more kind of contemplative and melancholy as they're traveling out into these deserts, because I think Kit kind of does realize that this is a final ride for him, and he's probably going to be at best dead at the end of this whole scenario. But occasionally there'll be little flashes of hope too, where it's like, oh, we just have to get to Saskatchewan, or we just have to get across this border. If we just have to head to this mountain we see in the horizon.
The answer to all of your problems is Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
they actually say, we're going to take off north to the mountains of Saskatchewan.
proving that this guy is a total dumbass.
Yeah. We're going to start a new life in the mountains of the prairies.
The mountains of the flattest place in North America. Yeah.
I just want to go somewhere not flat, Holly. Please. We just got to head toward that geographical feature over there that's not flat.
So, yeah, they are driving towards a mountain, and they're just going and going and going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's endless.
Okay, we gotta lighten up our gear again. And they bury some of their belongings. He's got this football, and he just kind of crouches down and puts a bullet through it and just kind of examines it.
Yeah, he walks around with a gun like he's Homer Simpson, like using it to open beers and turn off lights.
Nails into the wall.
Yeah.
He is a fucking idiot. And he's like, yeah, man, that train, if we would have put a car on the tracks, then we could have slowed it down to enjoy it a little bit more.
When you got a gun, you don't need no other tool.
Hot dog, that sure was a nice train. That train was hot.
This is a child in a man's body.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why they get along, you know.
That's why he's so relatable.
Like, I couldn't imagine talking to, like, a 20-year-old.
I couldn't imagine.
If you're 20,
I never have, never will.
never. But if you're like 25,
No way,
what do you
no
talk
how.
to a 15-year-old about? But like, I guess they don't talk.
Yeah, there are scenes where she's
does.
like reading to him. So
Yeah, she's reading Moby Dick to him at one point, I think.
and he's always got something to say about anything, even if it doesn't make sense or if it might be better left unsaid. He'll weigh in with his opinion on things he has no business weighing in with his opinion on. So
Oh, Holly, them cows we ran over sure gave me the Hershey squirts.
the thing
Some
about
things are better left unsaid, Kit.
yeah, there he's giving her his take. She's reading him about Einstein. He's like, well, my thing about theory of relativity is this. You know, like,
If I were to do a theory of relativity, it might sound like this.
yeah.
It sound a little something
E
like this.
I'd say E equals some cooler letters like X equals X squared. That's what I would call it.
So, yeah, they spin a bottle on the ground to pick a direction to go. Yeah, now she's drawing further and further inward and just wants to get away from him. And, well, he needed me now more than ever, but I had stopped paying attention to him. Instead, I sat in the car and read a map and spelled out entire sentences with my tongue on the roof of my mouth where nobody could read them.
She's totally retreated inward at this point.
Yeah.
All of the shine of Kit has eroded. The first chance she can, and she does, she's going to bail. But she
Yeah.
can't jump out of the car in the middle of fucking nowhere because she's going to get eaten by a bunch of buzzards.
She'll just die
Buzzard's
in the
guts,
sun.
man. She'll be in the buzzard's guts.
There's nothing out there. No shade. No nothing.
They do come across the lights of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah.
That booming metropolis.
It's
She
quite an
says it's the
oasis.
biggest and grandest city she's ever seen, which is cute.
There's something a bit awing about it. It is like looking up at a night sky if you're some kind of rube country girl who's never seen a city before and you've just been trapped in the Badlands with this miscreant for the last month.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I'd say a murdering psychopath.
Yeah.
But
No,
look
when
like
I
a
was
rube.
young, I was a miscreant.
Yeah.
Don't paint me with the same brush as him.
Well, hell, we all
that mass
shot
murderer
a
is such a
person or two.
scamp.
Yeah.
We're all killers, ain't we, Wayne Gale?
Well,
I like to make a statement. And what that statement is, I don't know, but I like to make it.
All right. So we see them dance in the pitch black to Nat King Cole.
a nice moment.
Oh, it's beautiful. You see them just in the headlights of the car, and it's playing out of the car speakers, playing improbably loud for diegetic music for where they're standing, which is interesting. But, you know, it's them having one last moment in the fantasy of their romance and their youth and, you know, this life that they've chosen to live and share with one another.
The Badlands are coming to an end.
Yeah.
It's time that they both go their separate ways soon.
He says, if I could sing a song that would like the way I feel right now, I know it'd be a hit.
I could write a song just good as Nat King Cole, just like I could make the theory of relativity better than Einstein could.
Yeah.
Well, if I was singing a Nat King Cole song, I'd say, hey, Red, stupid. Don't be so stupid, Red.
If I was Nat King Cole, I'd be called Nat Emperor Cole. And I'd be way more powerful than Nat King Cole.
The tree makes it nice.
It's a tree that makes it nice. Everything else here is shit.
I'm going to use that in real life from now on. So, wow, what a nice place. Yeah, the tree makes it nice.
Yeah. Though this Nat King Cole song sure is nice. Well, his voice what makes it nice.
Well, it'd be fun to just be matter of fact like that in a conversation with whatever happens to be around. It's like, oh, the lamppost makes it nice.
Yeah. Sure is a hot day. Well, yeah, the sun's what makes it so hot today.
So the next day, they come upon a rigger's trailer and demand some gas. And he's like, I'll even offer you the Cadillac for the guy's truck. And the guy's like, no, fuck off. Like, I need that truck.
And
Who are you anyway? He's like, name's Carruthers. Believe I shoot people every now and then. Not that I deserve a medal. And that's when he pulls a gun on the guy. And, you know.
He's pretty handy with this gun. He's always doing his wheeling and dealing with his gun.
He's not taking no for an answer with this guy.
Yeah.
Well, he never takes no for an answer. He just takes what he wants.
Yeah. And that's when a helicopter approaches.
Don't know how they got the drop on him, but they kind of figured out that they were near there. So the law's on the way.
That sends the roughneck running. And Kit's like, I had a feeling today was going to be the day. And he urges Holly to come and flee with him, but she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm fucking done there, Kit.
Yeah. You do you, I'm going to do me. Me is just hiding behind this gas truck.
And not going down in a hail of bullets like Bonnie and Clyde.
This is basically, if this movie is a love story, then this is basically the breakup scene, you know? Like, this is her saying this is the end of the line, and he has that moment of realization where at first he's a little stung. He's like, what? And a little in disbelief, and then he throws a bit of a tantrum, kicking stuff around, and he's like, I can't believe you people like you. He goes through all the stages to acceptance.
It's the stages of grief. Yeah, totally. If you've ever been dumped. Then you know, and
he's past listening to The Cure. Now he's about to hit the gym and get himself back in shape for the next girl.
He
does offer her something, and he says, you want a second chance? Then listen, 12 noon, Grand Coulee Dam, New Year's Day, 1964. You meet me there. Now you got that?
Then he takes
She's
off.
Like, got that. Not gonna fucking do that.
We'll see.
I'm a maybe. Okay, put me down as a maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm
he's always
interested in
no.
going to this event. She clicks on Facebook.
She leaves him on red.
Gets a notification in 1964. No.
Oh, Holly's interested.
Who will be attending?
Interested is they found it. They found a way to make something even less promising than maybe. There's zero hope. You know, maybe's always mean no. Interested is a fucking hell no.
I am interested.
I know. You're jaded after 98 people were interested in coming to your one-man show.
But I rented out the whole place.
You knew no one was going to show up.
Can't believe they let me rent the whole place with a little less than 100 people being interested on Facebook.
They really are desperate.
So he just goes fucking buck wild here, and this is where it's just action for a while. He grabs a piece of steel, uses it as a shield.
It's fucking gnarly.
Yeah, he runs to the car.
It's like Captain America.
This chopper lands, and the sheriff comes out, and he just fucking plugs him right away. Holly puts her hands up, surrenders. She's like, I'm fucking done.
I'm going for a ride in the helicopter.
Yeah, they load her up in the helicopter. They put the sheriff in a stretcher and attach him to the helicopter.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool chase scene. It's a very dusty chase scene with some very 70s cars. Yeah. This isn't, these aren't Stingray Corvettes.
Gotta love it.
Zipping through these dusty dirt roads.
Everything's happening. It's all
before
real
the
stuff.
chase scene, though, he does go to the gas station. Hold that thought. He asks the pump jockey if they've got 300 shells, and he's all like, pissed all mine away, shooting up bottles. And that's when he's got Holly's suitcase out, and he's throwing away all her dresses and shit and digging through her belongings. And he's like, what the fuck is this? He pulls out her journal, which we can only assume is all of her thoughts that we've been hearing in voiceover throughout the movie.
Yeah, the framing
he takes
device.
That. Yeah. And then he leaves all the rest of her junk. And he says to the attendant, he's like, you want any of this junk? It's yours.
Which back then, you're this dirty, grubby gas station attendant. This
There's
guy's
a 15-year-old girl's panties in there.
Yeah, maybe you would want those.
I have a feeling you might.
Yeah. Again, internet doesn't exist.
Got a bunch of our farts in some jars in there if you want them.
Gonna have to charge you for those.
Gets lonely.
Oh
out
shit,
here.
the cops are coming. Quick, give me a 20.
No, I don't have change.
So, yeah, the cops come there. He splits off down the road. He's speeding through cattle and wire fences. They're exchanging gunfire. It's a
Yeah.
fucking awesome, dusty-ass chase scene.
He's
Yeah.
doing some pretty shit. He's obviously not going to hit anything. He just kind of is blindly waving his hand out of the window and firing shots off. But
Yeah, it's sort of a chase scene where, that classic joke about the prairies where you can see your dog run away for 3 days. Like, it's just flat in every direction. How are you going to outrun the cops?
Nowhere
in
to
this?
run, nowhere to hide.
It's
Yeah.
like a final...
who's got more gas?
It's almost a Thelma and Louise scenario where this is like his last ride. And it's a chase where if it's very beneficial to be the car in front because you're kicking up so much dust that you're just totally blinding the car behind you. But he does somehow manage to.
Yeah.
He takes a turn really fast, and the cops don't take the turn well, and
He's
they kind
been-
of stall out.
He's been
They
driving
went
these
up on
Badlands.
2 wheels and almost
Yeah.
flip over entirely.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
go
that
on their
was gnarly.
side and then tip back, and
He knows how to drive in the Badlands.
but he gives up. He has his moment where he pulls
They're
his
the
car
good lands
over.
for driving for him.
And he shoots his tires
Welcome to the Goodlands.
for plausible deniability.
Goodlands.
You know what your
These
you know what your
woodlands.
land means, don't you? Goodlands. Yeah.
Winners go home and fuck a 15-year-old.
I'm sure Sean Connery's no stranger to.
Oh, yeah, he's from that time.
Yeah, he was a star in the 70s.
I hear they're making a movie about me, Badlands. I murdered 7 people.
A child bride I kidnapped while filming Highlander.
Do you want to buy a pair of boots?
They're
Same
your
difference.
size. They get him. He
They
gives
still
them-
have a foot in them.
Sorry.
Yeah, the cops, they're way behind. He could have got away. Kit's driving off down that gravel road. He sees the cops way back in the rearview mirror. Their car's kind of fucked up. It's going to take them a while to get straight. And
Yeah, he capitulates.
Yeah,
he throws in the towel.
Where's he going to
basically.
go? Just back out in the Badlands? That place sucks.
Yeah, a life of on the run. Maybe he's thought better of it. He doesn't have Holly with him anymore. She's already thrown in the towel. Maybe he's having some self-reflection.
but he won't make it seem like they caught him by being a better driver.
Yeah.
So he goes out of the car and he shoots the tire of the car.
Yeah, he wants to have
Make it
some
seem like,
plausible deniability. Like he doesn't want it to seem like he wanted to get caught, and he doesn't want it to seem like they bested him. So he's like,
Yeah. Oh, look, I got a flat. You got me.
yeah. But there's some kind of like vanity or ego attached to the fact that I don't know. He doesn't want to be seen as giving up, I guess,
Yeah.
in some way. He wants to have that edge where he's like it's hard to understand his psychology here, but he does throw in the towel.
Yeah. And he hastily builds a little Blair Witch rock sculpture to
Yeah.
memorialize. As the cops pull up, he's just finishing up on it. And he's like, right there is where you caught me. Right there.
I marked it.
Yeah.
Sure as shoot.
For
Yeah.
forever.
The deputy is like enamored with him right away. He's this younger cop, right? And he's remarking, "Oh, you ain't that big, and I heard you was 10 feet tall, and you shot lightning bolts out your arse."
Yeah, you're the same size I is.
And Martin Sheen's just kind of mugging, and he's really feeling himself. And
Yeah, he's enjoying the notoriety. He's
Kid-
being chained around like Hannibal Lecter to various places on his route to whatever.
Well, now he gets to enjoy some fame.
now, as
Yeah.
we know, Charles Starkweather, when he was apprehended, he got the electric chair.
Yeah.
The woman who was with him, she's maybe still alive. She was released on parole after a while.
There is some interesting.
Did she marry her lawyer too?
I don't know.
You know who married her lawyer was Casey Anthony, who killed her kids, and then
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I
Boy,
forgot
did
about
she
her.
ever kill her kids.
yeah, she ended up marrying her lawyer. Fun
I'd
fact.
marry him too.
Yeah, you got me off on that.
Whatever he wanted.
She's free, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she got
she
off.
is. Yeah, she is not guilty. I think.
Shit.
But Throughout the movie, there's been some interesting commentary because there is Kit and Holly have sort of been in their own world, but there's been this narrative forming around, like, some people think Holly's been innocent, some people think that she's got Kit wrapped around her finger and she's like the masterminds of the whole operation. But the way it plays out is, which is just told in voiceover narration, is that he ends up getting sentenced and does get the electric chair while she gets like probation or something like that. And
I think she does marry her lawyer.
And she does marry her lawyer, and it's all kind of just like a throwaway line almost. Like, it's almost besides the point, where it's like he would end up being executed. And
they meet up with the National Guard, who's going to take them back to wherever they are, or wherever they're supposed to be in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And Kit's loaded up on the plane, and even on his way out, he's charming the guards there.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, where'd you get them hat? I bet I would look good in a hat like that. Maybe I'll buy me one.
These are maybe...
These scenes are where it parallels Natural Born Killers the most. Our next movie is that whole cult of celebrity around a mass murderer.
Yeah.
That arose from the Charles Starkweather case, but also from these two movies. And Deputy is just so into him, right? He's like, I'll kiss your ass if you don't look like James Dean. And Sheen just kind of like looks back, and he just has this big dumb smirk. He's like, that's the best thing you could have said to me.
Which throughout the movie, I think he has a fanboyish worship for James Dean. They're using aliases at one point earlier in the movie, and he's like, call me James. You could tell, like, these are probably some of the best moments of his life after he's been captured, where he's being kind of the center of attention. He's being paraded in front of like 100 soldiers who are asking him questions, and you can tell he's like a pig in shit. He loves
out
this.
His Zippo,
Yeah.
his comb.
He's like, here, have the comb of the
who's
famous
your favorite
murderer.
singer? And,
Yeah.
I'll impersonate him for you.
Perry Como.
with arms wide open.
I just heard.
Scott
News
Stapp.
today.
But, this is kind of, in a way, what the moment he's been waiting for. He was a garbage man. He's always been a guy who's had a giant personality, who loves being the center of attention, loves hearing himself talk, and this is the one moment in his life where that's paying off, and, like, people are paying attention to him.
He's a somebody now.
Yeah, I'm a somebody. I'm famous.
Yeah. He was sent back to South Dakota to stand trial, and they kept him in solitary so he couldn't charm the other inmates.
Yeah.
And on a warm spring night, after donating his body to science, they cooked his ass.
She's saying this in voiceover narration while they're doing their last ride. Basically, he's being transferred, and she's also been apprehended earlier, and this is like their last scene together in the back of the cruiser.
Yeah, well, it's a plane. The movie ends with them riding in a plane back to South Dakota, and you get a POV of a plane flying through the sky, so you're going through these clouds. You're quite an individual, Kit.
Think they'll take that into consideration? It's the end of the movie. That's where it ends right there.
Yeah.
Are they taking it into consideration?
Yeah, it's told from her perspective, her journal entries. She probably wasn't there in the room when he got executed and, fried like a done Tom turkey. So this is probably the last time she saw him, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was the movie.
That's the fucking movie.
Badlands by Terrence Malick.
Badlands.
Yeah.
Fucking Badlands. What do you want?
Good stuff.
It's beyond me to talk about.
You know what? They should have called it Good Lands, because I think it was a good movie. That's my verdict.
I agree. Well, let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about Natural Born Killers.
I'm a killer.
Killer bees on the swarm.
Get you, gaga. You coming, Dada?